This is Take Your Time. I am Somejit Das, welcoming you to this channel again. It's been very long that I have, worked on video tutorials, but today we were going to discuss about paging to library. This is a particular topic which has been discussed so many times in so many separate videos by so many people as well. But the idea today is there are so many people as well requested me to talk about this, how things work. So today what I am going to do is it will, this particular video will not be completely theoretical oriented, that how things work in, rather we will see that whenever you are going to code using paging to library, how you are going to connect those dots and how internally things start to happen, which is the class used for what particular purpose. So, and again we will see we will just go through the complete project and see how things are working in the app in a demo. And again, before starting, this is not a paging 3 tutorial, rather this is a paging 2 tutorial. Okay, so with having all these things in mind, let's just get started then. So the first thing is I'll show you my dependencies, whatever I have added. So if you see here, I have added paging for my pagination. I have added room that will be giving me the local database to store the data that will be coming from the API call. And I have Hilt as well, which I will be using to inject my inject all the things that I require in the runtime. Now, having all these things, let's just focus on the app, how things are started. It's a very standalone one single activity app. So this is the main activity that you see. Main activity view state is a sealed class, which is the state that I will be observing in the main activity, and these are all wrappers which will be used in separate different places. So how things start to roll on is, whenever we come to this main activity, it will just ask for this main activity view model by this view models extension. And whenever it requires this main activity view model, it calls this init block, as well as it instantiates these three things, right? So in the init block, you see that show loading is what we are posting, and this is the state which is a live data, and there we are posting. So that does mean that this is also coming to this variable, which should be something that we observe in main activity. So this state, whenever our view model says that okay, my current value is show loading, this state gets the value of show loading, which again comes to this one, and this is getting observed here, and the control comes here that it is show loading now. And whenever it comes here, it will just have these things, initial UI state, and after that it will show a loading state, which is a progress dialog, nothing fancy. But one thing to notice here, before giving call to this, right, the control goes through these three lines, right? And here one line is list star wars people repository fetch or get people. Now let's see what is there. This gives us a live data of paged list and star wars people. So this thing must be observed in view model to render the UI, right, in the list. So if you see, okay, this is something that we observe in the view model, and whenever we get a list which is not empty, we show the data using this. We just submit the list to the adapter, right? Now we see what is there in the list. This list calls this particular method, right, fetch or get people, and this gives us live data of page list of Star Wars people. Now if you see the implementation part here, you see that this gives us the required data by wrapping with live data and page list, but using this live page list builder, right? And this live page list builder, from the definition I can find that it takes data source factory, right? If you see that it takes data source factory, which has a key value pair, and it gives us, and it takes a page size as well. Now from we will just check one particular thing at one time, right? So first thing is data source factory. What we passed in case of data source factory, we passed here this one, swappy db use case get people. You see that this is having a return type of data source factory int and star wars people. What is this? Let's just check it. This is, if you go to the implementation, this is just going to star wars people DAO, which is nothing fancy. It's the db contract of room database, and it is going to all people, right? And all people here, what is the query? Select star from star wars people. So star wars people is the table name, right? It is the table name, and it is giving me select star from star wars people. That does mean it is taking all the things from the star wars people table. But previously, whenever we talked about room database or anything like that, we can return, we have seen that we can return values from room database, wrapping with live data, or even not wrapping with live data. That is up to us. But here we see that we are, the return type is data source dot factory, and we are returning the star wars people, which is the data class, which is the entity, right? Entity type, and we are also giving this int. So what does it mean here? So you have to understand one thing. Room has a internal mechanism to provide you data from the database in form of in form of pagination or paginated data. So what happens is, whenever you pass this int with a type, this gives us positional data source. What do I mean by positional data source? It is like that, you know, that I need a data, my size is fixed, my size of data is fixed, I need 10 items, and I need 10 items from the position 1. So it will be 1 to 10. I need 10 items from position 11, so it will be 11 to 20. Whenever you require data in that form, you ask to room that, okay, give me a data when the data source is having a factory, which the first part is an integer, which acts as the position. So this is the thing here. Let me revert this part and go back to the main page, main place where we were discussing. So this is the thing, this is the data source factory, which is the get people, and the next part is the page size, which we were discussing. We know the limit, right? That what is the limit what is the size, predefined size. Here the page size we have used is 20. So as soon as we do this, right, live page list builder, we pass this and page size. What happens is, if you go into this live page list builder class that is written by Jetpack people, what they do is they will just assign these two values, your data source factory that you pass and your configuration. What is the configuration? That is the page list configuration. Did you pass a page list configuration? No, you passed only page size, and here they create a page list configuration where the page size they have given, and this is just the initial, they are just keeping these two values, nothing else. And now coming back to this place again, we see we pass a boundary callback, right? What is this boundary callback? This is a very useful thing for us, and we are using this as well in this project. This boundary callback is, it takes a page list boundary callback, and what we are passing here, we are passing this boundary callback. What is this? This is this one, right? Let's see what we have done here. We have created a Star Wars people boundary callback, and we have passed a remote use case, DB use case, and a coroutine dispatcher provider that will be used for us to make IO operations, right? Okay, now let's see what we are doing here. This boundary callback extends page list boundary callback of this, right? And we have taken this dispatcher provider and we have created a IO coroutine scope for us to use, right? And we have initialized here the requested page. First is number 1 is the current requested page is 1. We have initialized that, and is request running, we have taken an atomic boolean of initial value false. Whenever we are extending this whenever we are extending this page list boundary callback to any class, we have to provide implementation for on 0 items loaded, on item at end loaded. These two are the basic ones that you have to provide. What are the things? One, on 0 item loaded means when there is no item present in the list, right? And that is where the boundary callback comes into place. The first time when you don't have anything in the list, what we do, we just give a call to fetch and store people. And when you on item at end loaded, that does mean that you are at the end of the list. Now you require more items, right? Again, we give a call to fetch and store people. So what do we do here? We just check, is request running? Is request running is the atomic boolean. What is the value? If the value is true, that means currently one request is going on. We just return from this method. And if we find it false, that does mean that currently there is no API request is going on. Then we use this scope that we passed here, and we just give a call to swappy remote use case get people using requested page and pass the requested page. That way first it goes 1, right? And get people, what does it do? It is a suspend function of get people, right? So that does mean it's a API call. Swappy API client get people and page number. If you see that we are using Retrofit's API call here, so we are hitting the API here, and we this run IO provides us a wrapper on top of the API call, which gives us data in the form of result handler, whether it's a success or error, right? If it's a success, what do? We use the DB use case and we insert the items what we get from the API, and we do not do anything else. We just insert it. We do not render the UI from here. We just insert in the DB, nothing else. And we the requested page was 1, now it becomes 2, and is request running becomes false. And same in case of error, request running becomes false, but we keep the requested page value as it is. And these two are globally defined in scope of this class, right? So what we do, on 0 items loaded, on items at the end, we just hit the API, and if the success is there, we just store the value in the database, right? And as and when we call it more times, this fetch and store people, this requested page value gets incremented, and we hit the API with the requested page number with the increased request page number. That does mean first time it was 1, second time it comes as 2, third time it comes as 3, right? Okay, now again we come back to the place where it was used, right here. So we set the boundary callback here in the live page list builder. So we pass this boundary callback, and here it does, again it just assigns this boundary callback and keeps the value, right? So it works as a builder pattern, you see. And then finally, when everything is in place, we just call this build. And if you see, there's this build method, this return type is live data of page list of a particular type, right? So let's see what happens when we call the build. Now before calling build, as soon as we define all these things, so all these things are currently in place in this class. All these things are kept track. Now we call this build. What happens? They call create with all these datas, right? And in the create, they have this method called compute, where they take all these things, data source and other things that we have passed, like page list configs and all these things, and here they create a paged list from there, right? and this page list is returned from here, from this, as live data. If you see dot get live data, and that is what we get back in here, fetch or get people, right? So essentially fetch or get people, what does it do? It will just take the data from the DB in chunks, and it will produce a live data from this build. And whenever there are no items present in the DB, the boundary callback that we have defined, that will get invoked, and in this boundary callback, when there is no item, on 0 items loaded will get called, fetch and store people will get called, and data will come in the success, and it will be going inside the DB, right? And the same happens on item at end loaded. Now insertion in DB works, but how do we render at in the UI? So what happens is, we all know, right? Or maybe the people who are having an idea about live data and previously have some sort of idea on working with room database, they can already grasp that as soon as the DB gets updated, as this returns as live data, the items inserted in DB invokes the list which is coming out of here to render in the UI. So this method, from where it is getting called, this list will get the invocation here where we are observing. So as soon as the item are inserted in DB using paging library's boundary callback, then the DB updation will happen, and it will be in, and this particular call will get invoked. And as soon as this will get invoked, this show data method, it will be invoked, it will be called as we are calling, and adapter, we will just submit this list into adapter. What is this list type? This is type of paged list ** people, and this adapter is nothing but a paged list adapter. Paged list adapter, again, it puts the data in the adapter in chunks, nothing else. So this page list adapter takes a data of page list type. So that's what we are doing, and this is our view holder. And here we are passing again a diff callback, which is a diffutil callback implementation, which helps us which helps the recycler view adapter to identify the changes that it needs to be done whenever there is a updation that has been done on the list, right? Okay, so that's it in a nutshell, how paging is working in this application. And let's just quickly then see what are the things that are working, and let's just quickly see the demo of this. So I guess you can see the device. Let me just run the application. Today is actually New Year's Eve, so you might hear some sounds. Pardon me for that. So now the API call is happening. So now you see that the API call happened. This is the page 1 data, right? Now if I go down, you see page 2 data, you see page 3 data, you see page 4 data, page 5, page 6. So all these data are now present. But if you noticed, what we did was, we just put the data in database, right? And we are observing from there. We are not directly relying on the network call so to render the UI. So now if I just go back, right, and turn off my internet and then again start the app, the data should be there, right? So let me just quickly have this run this. Yeah, you can see the data is there till the 5th page, and post that there are no data. So that's it in a nutshell how paging 2 works. And what I will do is all the theoretical things and how things which class is responsible for what in a very if you want to know further, I will just put all the links in the video description, so you will be find it more convenient to learn paging as a whole. So with this in mind, for today it's done this video, and let's see, we will talk about something else in the next video. Maybe in the meantime, I have also learned a few things like Ktor, like Kotlin multi-platform. I was tinkering with them, so probably if you guys also need some sort of video for that, you guys can put some comment, or even anything you want, you can put some comment, so I can actually go through them and figure out what are the needs, just like I understood that paging is something we should discuss. Okay, that's it for this video. uh, Bye bye, have a great new year, see you soon.